All right, so I'm going to start this by taking off our console. We got 3 screws located right here on the back of it. They're all Phillips head screws. All right, now we should be able to lift this completely up and off. And as you can see, we got our main control board and our user interface. All right, so let's go ahead and pull the cover off of our main control board. I want to get it exposed. We got 4 Phillips head screws. You got 2 on this side and 2 over here on this side. And there's our main control board right there. All right, so to get the user interface off of this console or off of this control panel, I'm going to take the knob off first. And that's going to leave us with 4 Phillips head screws. 1, 2, 3, and number 4 is up here on the front. I'm going to go ahead and remove all 4 of these. Let's go ahead and let's pop control out of here. It's got a bunch of little clips that hold it here in the front, but if you lift up the side, I guess in this case it would now be my back side. If you lift up the back side, it'll actually lift up and over. And we've got a quick disconnect right here on our main control board. So that's our UI board right there. So we can set this off to the side. I can go ahead and take my console and set it off to the side. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the main control board. We got a couple wire connections that we've got to release off of here. Now, one thing I have found is with both the washer or the dryer for this pair, these connections, they're kind of dummy proof. You can't really mess them up. If you put it or you reconnect it in the wrong location, you really got to be trying because you're forcing that to fit. Now, we've got it disconnected. I've got a Phillips head screw over here and a Phillips head screw here. I'm going to go ahead and remove both of these. There we go. Now I'll take this and set this over there to the side and keep on keeping. All right, I've got one bracket right here that's actually cupping these wires that are coming through the top of my cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. If I don't, then I'm going to have a tough time if I need to pull any of these wires through later. So I've gone and removed my bracket. I'm just going to set this off to the side, and now I've got a fully open hole. All right, so let's go ahead and take the top of our cabinet off. Now keep in mind, I'm doing a full teardown. If you need to get inside of the cabinet, you do not have to remove your entire control panel to do so. You just come to these 3 screws right here on the back, and then we're going to actually slide the entire back of the unit backwards. We should be able to lift it up and off since we've got our wires disconnected, and actually set this off to the side. Completely done with this for now. All right, so if you haven't pulled one of these dryers apart before, this thing actually, the drum comes out from the back. It's got a brace that actually goes completely across the back of this thing. So I've got to remove this panel right here to get my drum out. Now to remove this panel, I got to get my power cord back out of the way. I left it on thinking it wouldn't bother me, but now I've got to go through the process of removing it. So let's go ahead and take our cover off. Take my strain relief off. Take my ground screw off. Screws off of my block. Take my whole power cord off, and I can toss it over to the side here. I do not need it. All right, so we're going to have to remove the block from not completely from the unit per se, but at least take it off because it's connected to little L brackets off of this rear panel right here. So to be able to remove this rear panel, we need it loose, we need it freed. So I'm just going to loosen her up, tuck it back inside so it's safely over here and out the way. Now, we've got quite a few screws that we got to take out to get this rear panel off. So I'm just going to get started. Looks like 1, 2 across the very top. Then we've got a screw here, all the way down the side. We got 2 here, 1 centered, 2 down here around our exhaust duct, 3, and then down this side over here. So I'm going to be here unscrewing stuff for a few minutes. So now let me go ahead and take all these screws out. All right, I got all my screws out. Now this panel does lift up and off of here. We're just going to set it off to the side. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and release my belt. I'm going to hit my tensioner. All right, so you release the belt so that you don't have anything holding you up, because now I can actually take out my 4 screws on these 2 brace arms, and it's going to allow that whole drum to come out freely. So let's go ahead and take out our 4 screws. All right, now I'm going to grab the housing, the drum, all of it. This is all one assembly. I'm going to lift it up. It actually locks onto these little cutouts. It locks onto these little cutouts on the side. And you're going to pull the whole assembly out of the way. So I'm done with this. I'm going to set this off to the side and we'll see what else we got inside. All right, guys, so I went ahead and I spun the unit around. I'm going into the front of it now. First thing I want to do, let's go ahead and remove our door. Now the door is 4 screws just on the hinges. If you take out the bottom ones, the bottom screw of each hinge, and then just loosen up the top one, that should allow us to be able to lift it up and off of here. Now real quick though, while I'm here, so this gasket too, I don't know if you guys are seeing that, the gasket has a little dart on it, and that dart just fits into each of these little cutouts, on the door. I'm not going to pull it all the way off. I just figured that might benefit somebody who's never pulled one of these parts if you do need to replace that gasket. It's very seldom. All right, so now I'm just loosening the top screw. I'm going to lift up on my door and take the whole door assembly off of here. Set that off to the side. All right, so let's go ahead and let's pull these bottom 3 screws out. These are actually going through my front panel into my filter housing. What I'm doing is I'm getting ready to pull this entire front panel, and these 3 screws are going to stop me from freeing up this front panel to remove it. Now I also have 2 screws right here on the top, right here and right here. Let's go ahead and take these off. Now that I've got my 2 screws out of the top here, I can just slide it up, gently work it forward. Now as you can see, my door switch still has 2 connections on it. I'm going to gently pull off my wire connections there. Now I can take my entire front panel here and I can set it off to the side. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my 2 connectors off of my moisture sensor. and I'm going to work my way around. I want to free up this harness right here. So I've got release clips right here. I got a release clip right here. Got a release clip right here. One right here. Take all this, tuck it in here. Then I've got another harness on this side, has two release clips. One up here, one down here. Now if you don't have your drum pulled out, this is going to be a fun process to try to do because you're not going to have as much access to the back side as what I have right here. So if you can, I would wait until you pull your drum. It's going to make this a little bit easier. All right, so now that I've got my power cord loose, I'm going to go ahead and take this top angle bar off, or brace. Not really sure what you want to call it, but this metal piece that goes from side to side across the very top right here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. It's got two Phillips head screws. Now we can take this and set this off to the side. I was looking at our filter housing down here. It's got two screws here and here. I've never actually pulled one off, but for you guys, I'm going to attempt it. So we're going to take out these two Phillips screws. Now I know the plastic is actually hooked down here, and there's a release clip on it. Let's see if we can get it to come out of here for us. There we go. So it is a pretty tight fit, but I was able to get, so there's our entire housing, moisture strips. I even brought the filter with it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this off to the side. All right, so now we've got our 8 screws. You got 2 here, 2 here. I got 2 right here, and I've got 2 right here. So we got to take all 8 of those out so we can pull this metal bulkhead off of here. Now there are little hooks on this bulkhead, so we are going to have to, don't worry about supporting it as you pull the screws out. We are still going to have to slide it upwards and then pull it outwards to take it off of here. And our 2 roller wheels are also still mounted to this bulkhead. So I'm going to slide it up and pull forward. My wire harness. As you can see, I still have my 2 rollers right here in the front connected, but that's all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the heater assembly. Before I can actually pull it out of the unit though, we got to get all these wires off of our connectors. So those are the 3 off of our heater. We got 2 going to our limiter, or our high limit thermostat, I guess. 2 going to our high limit thermostat, and then 2 on my limiter. Go. Now I got my harness off. Now I went ahead and I grabbed my long shafted Phillips head screwdriver, because the way they have these 2 screws down here on the bottom, they're actually tucked up under here. There's also 2 screws right here that I could use to release the heater assembly, but they're tucked underneath here. So what I'm opting to do is I'm going to go right along this left-hand side using this long shafted. And hopefully this will release that from the bottom of my frame, release the mount from the bottom of my frame. There we go. Got my heater assembly pulled out. So you can try to go after these 2 screws right here in the front. Maybe if you've got a very short stub or an angled Phillips head, you can go after these 2 Phillips head screws and actually just pull off the top of it. I just didn't have one readily in hand. But this is this is removed, so I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side. All right, so the only thing that we have left at this point is the motor and the blower assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and lean this forward so you guys can see the 4 screws that secure them in place. Now there are 3 screws here in the motor mount. You got one hiding back here, one over here, one right here. Those are our 3 in the bottom of the motor mount, and then there's one over here on the blower assembly. If we take out all 4 of these screws, we should be able to lift the entire motor assembly out as one piece. Now that I've got all 4 of them out, I'm just going to gently lift this up. We got one zip tie that goes into the floor that's securing us. I'm going to go ahead and pop that out. We can take the whole assembly and pull it apart. All right, so now that I've got my blower assembly and my motor assembly out here, I'm going to go ahead, let's disconnect our wires off our thermostat here on our blower. I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect the entire wire harness. I only got these 2 connections left on here, and we can set this off to the side. And then I got a thermistor back here on the back side of my blower assembly. We're going to pull this off, and that's going to take our whole harness and allow us to set this off to the side. So for our blower assembly, obviously if you want to replace the thermostat, I'm not going to take it off. It's just 2 Phillips head screws. The blower assembly itself has little clips that go all the way around it. We're going to pop these clips so I can separate the 2. And the only reason you would do this is if you actually needed to replace the blower. Otherwise, I would take the nut off the blower itself if I was just replacing the motor. Release all these clips. All right, so there's the front of my blower assembly. Set that off to the side. There's where my thermistor is actually coming into contact with the airflow. And just like the thermostat, 2 screws if you need to remove that thermistor. I'm not going to bother taking it off because I think y'all can handle that. So we've got our blower here, has a nut right here securing it in place. It's a 14 millimeter. And if you look, there is actually a flat edge. That's how we're going to align it on our shaft whenever we install it. That's what holds it in place. You can set that off to the side. That's going to leave us with 3 screws. This back section of the blower assembly actually connects directly to the motor mount. It screws directly onto the motor mount. Really can't think of a reason that you would need to replace this other than the fact that it was broken or damaged. Maybe it overheated and it's binding on your motor shaft. But that's the back section of our blower. Set that off to the side. That leaves us with our motor, idler pulley, and our belt switch. Just a micro switch down here on the bottom. Belt breaks, it's going to release and it's going to contact the lever on the micro switch. Just 2 screws to replace the micro switch. Let's go ahead and grab a pair of needles. So our motor clips, what I do with them is I get a pair of needles, you push down, pry outwards, and you're going to pull that whole clip off. Pry down, outwards, pull that whole clip off. Now, always pay attention to where your motor sits, where the actual plug-in is, because that's going to help you realign it. It's hard to reconnect this motor if we've got it sitting down here and we put our clips back on. So pay attention to where that is. Plus, once you get it into place, most of these motors, they've got grooves on the front that actually will lock it into place once you get it back in position to help stabilize it for whenever you put the clips back on. It's going to hold it in place. But that's basically our motor right there. Only thing left is our motor mount. We got one spring, got some tension on it, one screw holding it in place. We can take that off, but that's pretty much our entire dryer, guys.